Alright, as we start back up then, again, a couple things. If you look on the screen, I changed the background color because that orange is putrid. I changed the text color to white. I added bolding to all those colors. And the edit text right here wasn't wide enough, so I made it wider. So that said, I want to show you everything that I did. When you needed to download it, has that stuff all downloaded? Okay, then if you want to try to run it, you look up on the screen, pretty much the same way we did it in C#. You find this green arrow right here, and you click it. That's really all you should have to do. Now there's more stuff in here, and I want to mention in a few minutes a couple of the things that are on the menu there, but I don't want to spend too much time on that. When it happens again, you should get a little icon down here that looks like this, and it'll come back and rerun. Okay? If you think you did everything and it's not showing or it's not running correctly, then raise your hand. And will I be able to fix it? I don't know. Yes, sir. Wow. I have no idea how you do that, but
I know how to do it.
Oh, you know how to do it? You don't know if you want to do it or what? Instead of an actual device, that's going to be totally up to you. Most people use them while they're testing, and once they get it looking pretty much the way they want to look, I mean, if you decide that every day, no, I don't want to do that, tomorrow I can bring in a tablet. You can use it all semester. I don't really care. It's not answering your question because I don't know what the answer is. All right. Now, if you run it, please look up on the screen and you want to stop the run. Just like you had in C#, see the little kind of red or maroonish square? You click there and it stops the run. Now, if you look, that's still there. My emulator is still running, but I stopped the program run. All right? So I want to go back and I want to mention a few things here. First, I want to just say to you, again, look on the screen if you would, please. Remember how I clicked on here, and then I went over to background? It's got to be up here someplace. Should be probably under the B's. I know that's a hard one to believe, but there. See this? Okay, I can click here. I can click here. If I click over here, it brings up my stuff. Does that make sense? But notice if instead of doing that, I click here where it's actually blue, see what I get? A color palette. It's got a lot of the colors that you'd normally choose in here, but you can also develop your own either by using this, or clicking in here. All right? Does that all make sense? It's not that different from when we used to set stuff up in using CSS. And guess what? Just like with CSS, you can work with opacity, you can work with alpha, you can work with HSL, which you may or may not remember as being hue, saturation, and light. So you can work with the same kinds of stuff. All right, but that's how I changed it. I just literally grabbed something out of there that I liked. Looking on the screen then again, please. Then I went back to here where I had this, and I went down and I said, okay, I had to go into my all attributes. And when I did, what I did was I found text color, and again, look on the screen, please. I can either click, there is a little white square there. I know it's hard to see, but if you look on the screen, I used white, so I've got a white square. I can click on the square, bring that same thing up. All right, or I can click over here and bring up, well, it brought the same one up there, my settings. All right, so there's a lot of different ways that you can set things. So I set the color to white, and then I went down to text style. It's got a little flag there. If you click the flag, you can set it for bold, normal, or italic. I just set it for bold. All right. Then I did the same thing here. So I went to my edit text, and just like this, I went back and I set the text color to white. I set the text style to bold. Same kind of thing. I could be wrong here, but I'm looking. Okay, for hint, it's got my string here. I thought there was a thing for the hint color. I could be wrong. All right, I thought there was something, but I don't remember right now what it was. But I do want to show you the other thing that I did. Please look up on the screen here. All right, and I want to show you. Where is it? It was under layout. All right, please look up on the screen. This right now, the layout width is 222 dps. That's fine. That's how wide it is. This was originally set to, I believe it was like 34 dp, was something like that, which made it much smaller. It took the height and made it smaller. That's why when I ran it, you couldn't read all of it. So I went back and manually set it in here to wrap content, which means use as much room as you need to hold it. That's why it looks a lot nicer now. If I wanted to, I could have come into my button and changed the size, changed anything I wanted to change on here, but I just left it the way it was. All that makes sense? Yes.
How do you actually get the emulator?
Actually, either it's still loading, or for some reason it doesn't recognize any of your code, because you shouldn't have to do anything. All right. Does anybody have your emulator running where you've got it's showing your program? Okay. All right. Then while we're waiting, let's take a look up on top here. All right. We've talked about this stuff. We talked about some of this stuff. All right. So let's look at what are you going to use here. All right. Well, again, notice there's, just like we had before, there's new. You could have a new project, a new module. Okay, this is not where you create a new Java file. Look on the screen. Do not do that. Do not even try to do that. If you decide you want to create a new Java file, you will come in here under the Java stuff that you've got here, and I think it's this one. Yep. You'll right mouse click on that package name and you'll choose new. That's how you make a Java class. I'm going to assume you're going to forget that, so we'll say it again later. Pretty soon, you're going to want to have another screen. A screen in Android is referred to as an activity. Did you all hear me? So if I want a new screen or activity, I right mouse click on my package name, right mouse click, I go to new, and I go down to activity. And almost always, you'll choose empty activity in there. Okay? We're going to learn how you can bop back and forth between screens. All right? So, as far as the file, yeah, maybe new or open, this is also a way you can exit out of here. One thing you should never do is literally, like, it's not considered good for the machine to just click that X. That's a very severe way of shutting the system down. All right? I think you all know this already. Again, I don't mean to talk down to you. I know people like Christian know a hell of a lot more about hardware than I do. And I don't claim to know a lot about especially that. But if it's ever running like this, so your system is running, and you're like, you know, this program is going nuts, I just want to shut it down. I'm trying to shut it down and nothing's working. You can always do your Control-Alt-Delete. Go to your task manager, and under your task manager, find, because somewhere in there, I don't know why it's not, I guess it's got to show right here. All right, find Android Studio, and then go down to the bottom and just click End Task. All right, just in case. I don't think that's ever going to happen to you, but I don't know. All right, anything else in here? Oh, Sink. when that sync, what's going to happen occasionally, we're not going to do it now, but there'll be a chapter in this book that we're looking at here. There will be a chapter where we talk about what's called Gradle. That's the stuff that's building in the background, all right? And we'll talk about making changes to Gradle. If you make changes to Gradle, you have to do what's called sync the project. And that makes sure that everything's running and it's expecting the same stuff, for lack of better words. You'll get an option, look on the screen here, it'll be up here someplace. There'll be a hyperlink that'll say sync now, and that's how you do it. You can also sync through here. There's your save. Control S, of course, also works. Edit, anything special in here? No, you know what all that stuff is. View, it is a way that you can bring up different things. You can set up different tool windows. All right, there's a few things. Probably not going to use that very often. Navigate, again, probably not going to use that very often. Code, all right. All I want to show you here is, can you look up at the top and see the stuff that's grayed out? Do you notice generate? That's our getters and setters. So if we do want to use those, do it the same way that we did it when we were working in IntelliJ IDEA. Okay? Analyze, I've never used that. It will go and look at certain things for you. So for instance, it'll run some simple analytics, I believe. So if your program's running really slowly, you might be able to look at that and figure out something. I don't know. I've never run that. Refactor will allow you to do a lot of stuff with renaming. All right. This is a big one here. Okay, everybody see this? It's probably going to happen to you. It seems to happen to at least one student every semester. Somehow, your Gradle files that I just mentioned to you, those Gradle files and your files get out of sync. You press the button that says sync now, they're still out of sync. It doesn't work. Okay? Did you ever have that where for example, we were working on an HTML file and you make changes to it and you run it and the changes don't show, and you figure out later it's because it had an old cached version of your program? Same thing can happen here. If that happens, you want to come in here and you want to start taking a look at some of your project options. We'll talk about that at a later time. All right. Run. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. The one you're going to use almost exclusively in here is just Run App. All right. Tools. We've already looked at, or I've shown you the AWD manager, and I have shown you the SDK manager. All right. Those are the only ones in here that I've used. I'm hoping by the end of the semester we'll go to Firebase. That's in here. That's a database that you can use with Android. It's one of the databases. VCS is Virtual Control System, Version Control System, I'm sorry. So again, this will allow you to go, if you wanted to go and work with GitHub or whatever. All right? And window, nothing big there. And help is just what you think it would be. All right? The one thing that does bug some people is this tip of the day. Depending on how you set yours up, if it came up with a tip of the day, all right, it may or may not have, but if it did, there's a little checkbox that you can enable or disable it. All right, so if you don't want to see it, then just make sure it's not checked. Okay, all right. Did it ever come up? Okay, not sure why that would be. I'm trying to think of. Has anyone's come up where you can actually see what you entered? So no one's emulator came up. Is that yours did? Tom's did. Tom's special, I guess. All right.
I didn't use the newest one. I didn't use Q.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. All right. What did you? Okay. Did you all hear that? So what Tom did with his was he went to his SDK manager. You can all go back, not the SDK, I'm sorry. He went over under tools to his AWD manager. One is not coming out. But when he built, he didn't build for Pi. You notice how mine was earlier? I think I had Oreo or something. You can try that. I have not seen where that doesn't work before. Never had to set up anything special to get it to work. But I'm not lying to you either. This is the first time I've done it this semester too. All right. But
What did you use? One was 27.
that's what mine was set up for, was 27. I would suggest if you're going to do that, either get rid of the emulator you have, or that probably would be the best thing. Because if that emulator isn't working, the way you get rid of it is way over on the right. There should be an arrow. If you click on that arrow, it should give you a drop down, and one of the options in there is delete. All right. And I think the reason mine might not be working is I think I have to close this first. Totally close this emulator. Then I think it'll close in a second. Then I think if I go in and do a tools AWD manager, it will come up. Now make me a liar. That's always good. All right, I said I was only going to go until about 3:30. I want to wait, and I'd like to have Grace here, and I'd like to have Lauren here when we actually put in the code. Okay, so what I'm planning on doing, I want to get them up to speed. So we've been going for 3 hours. I'm going to try to get them up to speed in 15 minutes tomorrow. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do the first 15 minutes. That doesn't mean, oh, we don't have to come in then till like 12:50. No, don't do that. But I want to make sure I want everybody on a level playing field here. All right? So we'll do that. Even if it takes till 1, then it takes till 1. I'd like everybody to be, like I said, to be at the same spot here. There it is. All right? And then we will add the code to it tomorrow. All right? I've shown you a lot of what I wanted to show you today. And in here, not in there. Where are we? All right, we went over some of this stuff. All right, but if you look on the screen, please look on the screen. I showed you this stuff, right? I showed you where different things were. If you don't remember them or didn't like my explanation, you can look and they show it in the book here. And they show you what everything is called, etc. I was a little more literal than they were. They show you how to use the project pane, which is, again, just clicking that down arrow here. I showed you that. They talk about Gradle. If you want to read something and you want to learn more about the internals of how this works, that's not a bad read right there. All right? I guess part of my problem, one of my many problems, is that I just have never been really interested in hardware. All right? But I should go back and read this too. It starts on page 29. Just a little section in here. Then they've got app code. Now this stuff's important. If you look on the screen, you may or may not have noticed you've got 3 different things here. One that says com.example.android.hello-world. That's where your program is. Then there's another one that says Android test, and another one under that that says test. I think it's chapter 6 in here that's all on unit testing. Remember we talked about unit testing last semester, but we didn't do any. I'd like us to do a few. All right, so we'll look at that when we get to that point. If you want to know more about each of those folders, you can look in here. Here's the layout files. So it explains what activity main.xml is. It explains the resources, what's in drawable, what's in mipmap, what's in layout, what's in values. I showed you that. So you've got this stuff, but I showed it to you. I showed you colors.xml. I did not show you we don't have a dimensions in there. You could add that. Notice what it says. It'll store the sizes and views for different resolutions. All right, different screen sizes. The editor pane, we looked at it. You looked at this stuff that was in here. We did look a little bit at the main activity. We have not put any code in. That's where we'll start it tomorrow. If you want to know more about the manifest file, because I just introduced it to you, that is on page 34. We will talk about the launcher icon, so we'll get into that. Again, this is the default right here. If you look on the screen, the one that's got a square there, I believe that's the default Android icon. You can set it to virtually anything you want. All right? You just need a graphic to, that goes along with it. That's all. So we'll do that. They go in and they talk a little bit about the theme. Notice it says here, themes are described in a separate lesson. So one of these 10 chapters will go over themes in detail. All right? So you will see it. String resources are described in a separate lesson. If you want to know more about the build process, please look up on the screen here, page 38, Understanding the Build.Gradle Files. When you start to bring those in, I don't know if they show you one. They've got some repositories in here. Here, look on the screen, please, everybody. This is in one of these Gradle files. It tells you what SDK version or what API version you're using. Okay? Why is that important? Sometimes you want to use a feature. Let's say yours is 26, which is a little older. All right? You might want to use a feature like, I think, Recycler View that we'll look at later on in the semester. And I think that requires at least compile SDK version 28. So you got to manually go in there and change that from 26 to 28. All right? We'll talk about some of this stuff again later on in the semester. More about Gradle. There's syncing. So there's about 5 or 6 pages on this. If you want to know more about Gradle, there's that sync now that I mentioned to you that will occasionally come up to make sure your things are in jive with one another. And then there's running the app on an emulator or a device. If you look starting on page 43, they show you how to create a virtual device. It's pretty much what I showed you. Okay, notice in this case he's got about a 10 or 12 or whatever of them. You can have as many as you want. You see the picture. How to run it. Again, nothing special that you have to do. There should not be. And it should come up. All right. Please look on the screen. Running the app on a physical device. Okay. On Friday, again, I'm going to bring the tablets in here. In fact, depending if I can, I might bring them in there pretty early because I don't know if they've been charged. All right. So we might have to let them charge for an hour before they're usable. I don't know. But I'll plug them in no later than 12. Just bring them all in here and plug them in. But they start on page 47 explaining you how you can run it on a physical device, how you have to hook it up, etc. Okay? Please look up on the screen here because I do want to show you this. Using the log. You may have done this. You may have never done this. But in the AWD1112 class, when we were learning JavaScript, you might remember this a couple times. We would use a statement like console.log, where we would throw something on the log. This has got a log also. So if you look up on the screen, the log is down on the bottom here. All right. And it's not showing right now, but if I click where it says logcat, there it is. You can write information out to the log. I'm not going to go over that now. It's important enough that I'd rather show it to you. So I think this is a decent place to stop right here. We've done almost half of this. We're on page 48 out of 104. All right. So I'm going to give a quick review and try to get the two ladies who are missing today up to speed, and then we'll start writing some code tomorrow. All right. When we get done, I don't know. I'll try to write something up tonight, and we'll just keep creating apps. I think that's how you're going to learn anyway. All right. Questions? All right. You've got, what, 45 minutes to play around with this stuff. And if you say, well, I don't want to, then I would start reading this. All right, if you get the time, please.